You're listening to BQN. Assimilate the audio.
Infinite diversity.
Live long and prosper, and welcome to Infinite Diversity, a Star Trek Universe podcast, here on the BQN Podcast Collective. I'm your host for today, Thad, and joining me is my co-host, Chrissie. How are you today?
I'm doing all right. I feel like there's a lot of information I'm missing as regards to what we're dealing with right now, but I'm sure I'll be filled in as needed.
That's classified.
Yeah, exactly. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm not sure I should have been messing with my DNA and adding ancient alien DNA to it. I think this might have been a bad idea.
Some theorists say.
Also joining us today is Caleb Dorsch from the Starfleet Academy Awards podcast. Caleb, thank you so much for joining us. How are you today?
I'm doing great. I have a huge weight off my shoulders. I just placed a bunch of gravitic mines all over my house, and I am just waiting for some Klingons to find them. And I'm very excited for what happens when things go boom.
I feel like your dog is probably going to find them before the Klingons do.
Yeah, that's true. I should warn them.
Before we jump into our topic for today, we'd like to take a moment to thank our Patreon patrons who make our show possible, particularly our associate producers, Carl Wonders, Justin Oser, and Chrissie De Clerck-Szilagyi. Listeners, you can hear your name listed as one of our associate producers for a monthly subscription of just $10 at patreon.com/BQN. And with a monthly subscription of just $5, you can join our meetings of the Hive Mind on the second Saturday of each month. Watch your Patreon messages for details. Alright, so it's been a little bit since we've shown up in your earlobes, but we're back, and I don't know why I said that.
I like that. Showing up in your earlobes.
And we're talking about the novel that came out last month, only the second Star Trek novel to come out in 2022, Harm's Way by David Mack. And this is a continuation / tie-in, I guess, between the regular TOS novels and the Vanguard series of novels that was written over a decade ago now by David Mack, Dayton Ward, and Kevin Dillmore. Caleb, what do you think about this book?
So I am a big fan of Vanguard. I had just read all of Vanguard in 2022 in preparation for this novel. And there were quite a few things I liked about it. I thought the first half of the book was a lot stronger than the second half. The second half really overdid it a bit for me. But overall, I liked it. I liked the tie-in with the Shaddai and the metagenome. Although I felt like for listeners that had not read Vanguard before, there were some bits where it could have been explained a little bit better. But that's just kind of like a general. But overall, I really liked some of the scenarios that were set up in this book and gave us something a little bit different we don't always see from Star Trek novels.
I think part of why it wasn't explained was because they were in universe setting it up as Vanguard as this incredibly classified project that most people are not read into. So I think that helped with that. And also, I think a big part of why they didn't explain everything, and David Mack has been pretty forthcoming about this. I listened to a few interviews he did about this book. One of the reasons this book exists is because the Vanguard novels have been super popular. Whenever Simon & Schuster does their 99-cent audiobook deals, which they do every month, check the Simon & Schuster website because they have 5 or 6 Star Trek books that go up on sale for 99 cents every single month. So it's great because you can grab a bunch of books every month and you will always have Star Trek books to read. I mean, who doesn't want that?
Yes, for sure.
Yeah, and I think the entire Vanguard series was on sale either at the very beginning of 2022 or at the very end of 2021.
Yes.
And that's part of what spurred me on. I had the books, but I'm someone that likes to read on Kindle, even though I have the physical books. And so I definitely picked them up when they went on sale, and it gave me more of an excuse to read them. So, yeah, that's part of why I picked it up at the beginning of this year. I had read Harbinger probably 2 or 3 years ago. That's the first book in the series. And then I finally came back and continued with Summon the Thunder on through and Tempest's Wake, which is like the epilogue that also involves the original series crew, which is kind of interesting.
Now you have to read the Seekers series.
I do need to read Seekers. Seekers is next, and then Agents of Influence by Dayton Ward, I believe, comes right after that.
Yes.
So I have those and definitely need to work through them. But I love Vanguard. Like, I've been calling for, if after Strange New Worlds ends, I don't want a TOS reboot. I want a Vanguard series, like a serialized what's going on in the Federation in the background of TOS set in the same time. Sometimes Paul Wesley pops in and you see him and Ethan Peck, but most of the time it's focused on all this outside Federation stuff that's happening in the deep reaches of space.
No, I'm here for it. I've been saying that I wanted a Vanguard series since like 2016 or so. But yeah, Anyway, one of the things is because those Vanguard novels sell really well whenever they go up on sale. They did this novel as a way to promote the Vanguard novels. So I think part of the reason they're a little cagey on this is like, hey, if you want to know more about this, read this series. And what's interesting is the way David Mack described it was they were hoping to get Vanguard readers. They were hoping to get people who read the regular TOS novels to read Vanguard, which makes sense. But they were also hoping to get people who read Vanguard to read the regular TOS novels. And I feel like the number of people who read Vanguard and don't read all the other books is small.
That doesn't even make sense.
Yeah.
Well, if you look at like Goodreads, though, I mean, that's a small sample size, but if you compare some of the bigger Star Trek books that are out there that have, ratings in the 1,000 or 2,000 readers on Goodreads, Vanguard's pretty low. It's like at the beginning, the first book is probably over 1,000 ratings, but as you progress through the series, it kind of trails off, and it's like the low like 300s by the time you get to the end of the series. But that's just assuming, everyone rates everything they read, which we know is certainly not true.
Oh, no.
Or that everyone uses Goodreads too, right? But it's just kind of interesting. So it's like, trying to rebuild some fan base for those, especially because they're coming up on, gosh, it's been almost 15 years, I think, since the first book came out.
Yeah.
In the dark times when there was no Star Trek.
Right.
Which honestly was what made Vanguard so great at the time, was it was like getting a new Star Trek series.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And see, I didn't read Vanguard until a few years ago. So it's like, it's just long enough ago that I have forgotten all but the major plot points walking into this book.
Yeah, I'm really glad Caleb's here, because it's also been several years. Back in April, when they announced this book at Mission Chicago, I had grand plans. I'm like, I'm going to read all the Vanguard books to prepare for this. I made it through the first one.
I didn't even get a chance to do that.
Which is not in any way, listeners, to say that the books are bad. It is more to say that I am really bad at follow-through, especially when it comes to reading.
Well, in the first couple of books, like the first book is kind of almost like a prequel of sorts to the overarching plot of Vanguard. And then the second book is a lot of setup, but it's like Reap the Whirlwind, Open Secrets, and Precipice. That's like the sweet spot of the series where so much happens and a lot of connections to the TOS universe, even beyond the scope of the 3 seasons of the show, start to come in. So you get these connections to the movies, you get these really interesting connections, even to some tangential stuff that you probably wouldn't expect from all over. It's a lot of good good stuff in that
Speaking
series.
of the timeline, and I thought this was interesting, David Mack has said that he actually sat down to plot out exactly when in the Vanguard series he could set this book without it messing with the established canon of the series, which I thought was really cool, because he didn't have to do that. He could have just, said, oh, they just did this during this time, it's fine. But he actually looked through to find, because, and now I should have the list of Vanguard novels in front of me, and I don't.
I believe it was Precipice.
Yes.
It's right before Precipice.
It takes place during Precipice, actually, apparently. There was, because Precipice takes place over the course of a year.
Mm-hmm.
And
this is July 2267.
Yes. And he realized that in that book, he had, there was a 2-month period where he didn't have the USS Sagittarius doing anything and didn't even mention it in the book. So he's like, perfect, we'll do it there. And then he's like, well, where does that place it in the original series? So I thought it was interesting how he went back. Like, I would have thought you'd place it, especially given how much this book focuses on how Kirk is dealing with the Doomsday Machine. I would have thought he would have started with that idea. But no, that was just a happy accident. He first figured out where it fit in Vanguard, and he's like, oh, and that's right after Doomsday Machine. So then
Beautiful.
Yeah. What's really interesting on that is it's sort of like, is a nice little tie-in in a way. Because I mentioned I read the first book, so I have that one more or less fresh in my mind. That book opens with a prologue of the USS Constellation, captained by Matt Decker, discovering the metagenome in the Taurus Reach.
Mm-hmm.
So I just think that's a weird little tie-in that was almost certainly not deliberate, but just sort of works out nicely.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I really like this setting, especially, the Doomsday Machine is probably my favorite episode of the original series.
Oh, it's pretty great.
I love that episode. I think, William Wyndham's performance as Matt Decker is just top tier. Probably one of the best one-off characters that Star Trek's ever had, in my opinion. So it was really cool to revisit this events right after it happened and see the trauma that was clearly impacting Kirk to the point of him almost being distracted in a lot of ways. And it, at first I was surprised that the story focused more on Spock and the away mission, and that Kirk kind of took a back seat on this one, because we know Kirk never takes a back seat on an away mission. But here it makes sense because he's just really struggling with, everything that's been happening. So I thought that was really clever to tie it in there. I don't have any issues, I think, with where they dropped it in the timeline. I do like that they gave some background on what's also happening with Vanguard here. They've already nuked Gamma Tauri 4, I think is the planet.
Yep.
That was basically the culmination of Reap the Whirlwind. And then it looks like Diego, I'm blanking on his name, Commodore Diego Reyes had already basically gone through his trial from Open Secrets. And so there's like a big turning point in Vanguard at that point, and this is kind of like a nice little place where you get some in-between stuff that I think it gives some good context to what's happening with Vanguard. Mm-hmm. But I also I think the inclusion of some of the Sagittarius characters, there were certain things that they had encountered in those two previous books, Reap the Whirlwind and Open Secrets, that I think would have clarified some of what was going on with the metagenome and the Shaddai, and the fact that they were actually on the away mission. I thought there would have been a little more explanation there.
Oh, yeah.
And that's kind of one of the things specifically, and we'll get to it a little bit later, but when Shaddai attack people, they basically, coming in contact with them, there's this parasitic crystal formation that grows. It's kind of like the ice in Far From Home of Discovery, where it just kind of takes over the ship. That kind of reminded me of that. It was really interesting. But that parasitic crystal, pretty much that was a death sentence if you got touched with that in the first couple of books. So what was interesting is that I believe it was actually Dr. Babbitts, was able to get a sample of this. I believe it was, I don't know if it was Lieutenant Therio or if it was David Mack, two characters from the Sagittarius. One of them came in contact in the previous book with the Shaddai and actually was infected with the parasitic crystal. And Babbitts figured out how to reverse engineer that in order to cure them, like how to use the metagenome for good instead of what it was currently doing, which was destruction and evil. So I thought that part wasn't explained all that well. And there were definitely a couple of really big characters who encountered our parasitic crystal at a couple of different times in the story. And it just kind of was like explained away that she treated them, but it made it seem not as big of a deal in certain spots, when it definitely is a big deal if you don't know the context of that. So,
well, then that's really just to say that if you read this book, then you should really also read Vanguard.
Yes.
Yeah. I had forgotten about so much of the metagenome stuff, and it was lacking. Like yeah, and it was lacking. So.
Yeah, and that was a conscious choice, I think, because at the end of the day, this book is not technically a Vanguard novel. It is a standalone TOS novel, and you should be able to read this without having read Vanguard and just think, oh, these are some other things. Like, it's the same as when you watch an episode of TV that's a crossover with another TV show. You're gonna see other characters, they're interesting, but you're not gonna learn all that much more. And if you want more, you can watch that show. But it should also still work as its own episode of that show. And I think that works well in this case. It still works as just a regular TOS novel. And if there hadn't been any Vanguard, if the Vanguard novels didn't exist, this story would still work, I think.
Right.
Yes.
Right. I do think, like, one of the things that's a strength of this novel is, like, the internal monologue of Kirk and Spock. But if they had just done that with Dr. Babbitts as well in a couple of scenes, like, I think that would have, even if it was like a flashback or something, right? That would, just like an extra scene here or there, would probably have helped with that continuity piece. But like you said, it's relatively minor. If you haven't read Vanguard, it's not going to make or break things. But I do think if you're trying to get someone to read Vanguard, those are really important details that are really interesting, and I think would definitely impact bringing people over to the Vanguard series. Like, I mean, the Shaddai themselves are a really interesting species, and part of the great thing about the Vanguard series is that you get a lot of their perspective on things. They're kind of really weirdly dropped in throughout the series, but you'll be in the middle of the
like, point of views of the Shaddai
right.
characters.
You get straight up point of views from there, and it's really cool. And at first you're like, what's going on? And this is really wild. And it's like, oh, I totally understand why this species feels threatened from everything that's going on. Plus they're like Tholian connections and things like that. But so I think even with the Godhead, it would have been cool to get a little more perspective from that.
Yeah, they don't go into the Tholian thing at all in this book, but I mean,
right. And Tholians they don't need to there, but the Godhead itself is like a really interesting adaptation of the Shaddai, or it's like a hybrid, right? I guess is the way to put it. And
it's like half
kind of
getting half Shaddai.
Right, and getting a little more of their point of view, I think, would have been cool too.
I think we
and
should.
Maybe we'll. I don't know. Well, the Godhead's dead, but like maybe there will be a follow up to this where there's, I don't know.
Speaking of points of view and what may or may not be lacking, I think we should have had at least a little bit of a point of view of one of the Chwai.
Yeah, that would have been good.
Especially because they were like taken over essentially.
Yeah.
By the Godhead, right? Like. That internal struggle of like being compelled to do something when you have no choice is kind of.
We get a little bit of that with Spock and the One, but that's it. And I hadn't even thought of that. That would have been good. Also, I think you're pronouncing it Schwei. Is that what you said?
Why? Oh, I listened to the audiobook, and that's how Robert Petkoff pronounced it. So
perfect.
That doesn't necessarily mean
I've been calling
right.
him Shui in my head. I was actually interested to see how each of us pronounced it in our heads because, like I said, I was pronouncing it Shui.
I was also saying Shui. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And I think it's because it's got the WII, which made me think of the Nintendo Wii. Honestly.
Yeah, I had to. I bought the ebook specifically for this podcast to like go through it, and I realized after I did that I did this backwards because if I had bought the ebook first, I could have gotten a discount on the audiobook, but I didn't do it that way. Oh well.
Now you know for the future.
Yeah, well, normally I don't. Normally with the new Star Trek books, I normally just always grab the audiobook.
Yeah.
And then I'll pick up the ebook when it's on sale for 99 cents, like, a year later.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
But the way it is with Amazon is if you own the ebook, you can get the audiobook on Audible for a discounted rate. But it doesn't work the other way around.
Either.
I have so many ebooks.
It should work the other way.
The only unfortunate thing is that there aren't a ton of audiobooks because they'd only started making them in like 2015.
And I actually want to touch on that a little bit too. So I listened to multiple David Mack interviews to prepare for this podcast. And one of the things, because I've mentioned this multiple times on this show over the last year or so, is that I wish they would go back and do audiobooks of the Star Trek books from before 2016. And apparently the problem with that is Simon & Schuster didn't think there was a market in audiobooks before then.
Like at all?
Tell that to Andy Robinson and the Stitch in Time.
Andy Robinson specifically campaigned and negotiated a new contract to do that.
That's good.
But the problem is the contract with the authors for the Star Trek novels from the early 2000s through 2016 does not include any provision for an audiobook. So in order to do that, they would have to renegotiate the contract with all the writers for the royalties, etc., etc. Which is
why it was easy for Andy Robinson.
Right, because he wanted to do it.
Yeah, there's one author, yeah.
So which is something they definitely can do, obviously, but that makes it harder to just say, oh, let's make audiobooks of these books. Because, and obviously today it seems absurd to say that, and even by 2016 I think they were a little late to the game, but the early 2000s was not a big audiobook time. Before Audible became like the de facto place to get audiobooks, like the way you would buy audiobooks is you would go to Barnes & Noble and you would spend like $100 on the
lot of money,
price, or at least or cassette tapes even,
or cassette tapes, right? They were not cheap,
and it was like a box of 20 of them.
Yeah, exactly. If they were unabridged, yes, it was like 20, 30 cassettes. If it was CDs, it was still like 10, 15 CDs. It was. I mean, I used to have some of them, so I know. It was ridiculous. So that market was always niche because there were not that many people who were going to do that.
Yes,
and that's why back in the 90s, abridged audiobooks were very common because you would take a book and you would cut it down so it would fit on like 2 or 3 cassettes and
destroy it.
Yeah, basically. Yes. So because of that, the audiobooks were really not a huge market until the advent of digital audio because now, of course, pretty much every book by a major publisher has an unabridged audiobook that goes up on Audible the day the book comes out, including Simon & Schuster. All of their news books come out on audio.
Well, that's an accessibility thing too. I think. Yeah. There was not as much concern about that. Yeah. Before.
That's also absolutely
when,
true.
Early aughts maybe, but I can vouch for the nicheness of the audiobook thing because when I first started working at Barnes & Noble in 99, for all of the, the entire audiobook section was one set of 4 bays.
Mm-hmm.
So like when you go in and there's the shelving, and that was all of the audiobooks that we had in the whole store versus the, everything else. So, yeah.
Right, so it was really only big releases that got them at that point, I imagine. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And nobody bought them except for, like, if they were on super sale.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The new releases that would be 40% off, the audios would be 30. Yeah. Yeah. It's ridiculous.
Which, I mean, made a certain amount of sense because you were getting, 20 cassette tapes. But still.
The markup on books and cassettes and CDs, honestly, and now that it's digital, that there's actually no physical media, is disgusting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But that's a whole other...
Yeah, well, that's, my oldest digital subscription is audible.com. I've been subscribed since, I think, 2005.
Wow, no, you got me beat. I think I'm about 2011 for me.
Yeah, I was in high school when I first subscribed to Audible. So, yeah, it's, I pay $15 a month, and I get a free audiobook every month, and discounted prices on any other audiobooks. Normally, I normally only need to buy one a month. Sometimes I actually start to build up the credits. I'm like, oh yeah, I have to start buying books because they only let you keep so many credits before it.
Right.
Yeah. But it is absolutely worth it because, yeah, I'll especially like the new Star Trek books. I'll get those. It's just, I definitely go through audiobooks way faster than printed books and have for a very long time because my ADHD brain rebels at the idea of doing only one thing at any given time. And I can listen to an audiobook while doing other things. It's a little harder to read an actual book while doing other things.
My wife's the same way. I mean, she has ADHD as well, and so like she'll play the audiobook and read along with the printed book, and it actually will help her get through the printed book.
Oh, okay.
Which is really convenient. So yeah, it's expensive when you have to double dip like that, but
she needs this.
It helps her.
If she does ebooks, yeah, she should buy the ebook and then she gets the discount on the audiobook.
Right.
That's actually bitten me a few times though, because the problem is you'll get the discount on the audiobook, so then the audiobook is less than $15. So then it's like, well, I'm not going to use my Audible credit for this, so I end up actually spending more money because I'm still also giving Audible $15 a month, but I'm not going to use it on that ebook that's less than $15 because that would be a waste.
Right.
But now
you have to amortize it out.
Right.
How many times did you get an ebook that was $50?
Right.
Right.
Applying the credit to a $5 ebook every once in a while, you're still ahead of the game.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of the new Star Trek books, they put the ebooks on sale like within a couple of months, which is pretty surprising too.
Yeah.
So that actually is a good deal if you're willing to wait a little bit.
Because I first normally experience it through Audible anyway, but I always grab the 99-cent ones. Whenever they go up, I grab all the ones I don't have because they're only 99 cents.
And you don't have to find somewhere to put them. That's the best part. As someone who, Jay and I have a combined library the last time we did a cataloging of like 3,500 volumes, most of which is in boxes in his parents' garage. There were a lot of times we were like, ooh, this looks interesting, and it's $1, at a bargain bin. And okay, now what? Where am I going to put it?
Right. So
I love that about ebooks. Love, love, love it.
Yeah, I guess it was 8 years ago now, when I bought this house. I obviously moved to do that. And at the time, I actually, because I had a huge library of books, but I went through and I ended up donating almost all of my fiction books because I'm like, do I really want to move all of these books to a different house? And
as someone who has recently moved and 2 full bookshelves of my wife's books plus my 500 plus Star Trek books, I feel that.
And I was at the time I was already mostly using the Kindle for anyway. So I'm like, if I want to reread any of these, it's not like I have to. It's not like I have to buy all of these right now. I don't have to buy hundreds of books on Kindle now. It'll just be when I next want to read it, I'll buy them as I go. So yeah, I ended up getting rid of most of my fiction books so that I didn't have to bother with where to put them and all that. And I honestly do not regret that decision.
No.
I had hundreds of books, but I just I didn't need them taking up space. Now, like nonfiction books, the sort of books that you pick up and page through, obviously I still have those. I have a whole collection of nonfiction Star Trek books. I mean, obviously. But
reference manuals, of course.
Yes.
Yeah. There are things that don't feel the same on an ebook reader.
Mm-hmm.
It does not work. It doesn't work the same.
Yeah, I generally...
It's nice to
books.
have, though.
Yeah.
I generally use e-readers for fiction and physical books for nonfiction. That's normally how I do it. Just because anything that you would want to swipe back and forth and go back and check things, it's way easier to use it on a physical book than it is on an ebook. But something that you're just going to sit down and read from start to finish, ebook's the way to do it. It takes up less space. You can read in the dark. You know, there's all sorts of benefits.
Especially Trek books on a tablet. I mean, like, yeah. I mean, how can you not read Star Trek books on a pad? Really? You know? And I don't understand, like, I cannot find a case that looks like a pad. I've found a couple cases for phones that look like the front of a pad, so that looks ridiculous because it's the front.
Yep.
You know, I'm like, give me a case that looks like the back of a pad.
Have you seen those phone cases that look like the front of a tricorder? Like, I don't understand why you would do that.
Yes.
You'd want it to be the back of the tricorder.
Right. And I think people are like, well, you know, the people designing them are thinking, well, there's not much there. It's just the back of it. But it's like, that's the point. You have the front of the tricorder in front of you. That's, yeah.
Yeah, and in Picard Season 2, they were literally using phones in cases as tricorders.
Yes, they were.
That's funny. That's funny. Wasn't it one of the? It was like the Galaxy. Wasn't it Galaxy?
It was one of the Samsung phones. I don't know which one.
If it wasn't a Samsung Galaxy, then they made a mistake there.
Right.
If you ever do find a Kindle case that looks like a pad, let me know.
I will, absolutely. And listeners, if you ever let us know, because
you gotta get phrase on that at Star Trek Unlimited.
Yes.
Oh, there we go.
Oh, speaking of which, I finally got my kitchen ingredient containers with the
canisters
on them. Yeah.
I got those too. Yeah. The way they talked in the email, where they're like, "These are stuck in a shipping crate," I thought it was gonna be next year before I saw them.
Well, I mean, it still was like
surprise.
2 months between when I ordered them and when they arrived. So yeah.
Yeah. But still,
I mean, that happens. I'm like, if it's stuck on a customs hold, I know that it's there. It's just at some point I'll get it, and finally got them, and they're
hopefully.
Awesome. Mm-hmm. I have them storing. I have them storing various dry goods in my kitchen already.
Yep.
Convenient.
All right, what were we talking about this book?
We had talked about the Shui.
Yes.
And that led on this huge tangent about audiobooks.
Honestly, as far as tangents on this podcast go, that was a relatively on-topic one.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, until we started talking about phones.
I mean, on the topic of like pronunciations, I do really like the use of like actual Klingon vocabulary in this book. That's something that's really, really cool to me. I've been learning Klingon on Duolingo for the better part of the last 2.5 years, because who wouldn't? And so like it was nice that, even though I don't speak it very well, I like the conversationally, like I can pick up the vocabulary, and like I knew most of the vocabulary that that was being used, right? And like the Kucha is the smooth-headed Klingons, and I think the word Kuch literally refers to like head, like someone's forehead. And then
I'm trying really hard not to make a joke about Kuch meaning head.
I know, me too.
Quch, we'll spell it Quch, and then it's a capital HA apostrophe. There we go. And then Ataba is animal. So the Klingons, anytime they were at battle in this book, they would scream animals. You animals. And I'm like, that's wonderful. I love that.
Yeah. Now, see, that's interesting because this is the first. I used to use as an e-reader like a regular just tablet, so it had all the other functions, web browser, all of that. Okay, but I recently switched for my books to just a straight up. It's a Nook Glow Light. Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
I generally prefer an e-ink screen for ebooks as well.
Fantastic. But the problem with that is there's no web browser. So on the old one, what I could do is highlight it, and then you'd ask the dictionary, and of course the dictionary would be like, we don't know what this is, but then there was an option to Google it.
Oh, yeah.
So then I could do that with the Klingon or whatever. And so that was one thing that was a negative here. So what I ended up doing was, I had my phone next to me, because when don't I have my phone next to me? So I could look it up that way, using the Nook reader on my phone. But that was one place where I wished I had a hard copy, because that's the kind of thing like I would be writing in the margins, what that was.
Yeah. I think like the actual Kindle Paperwhites, you can highlight and it'll give you it'll like pop up with the dictionary definition like in the window, which is cool.
Yeah, and it
and the Nooks do that too, yeah.
And it does actually give you the option to search online, although it's a painful process on the Kindle to do that. Like, it will load a web page for you if you really want it to, but you don't really want it.
My Kindle is also as old as Star Trek 2009, so...
Ooh, yeah.
The Kindle also does let you take notes, although that's a bit of a cumbersome process as well.
Yeah.
It is, but it's there, and I did for some of this. But yeah, Nook does all that too, and I've been told that there is a secret way to get it a web browser on here, but I'm not smart enough to figure it out, so I'm not worry about it. I'll probably break it doing it.
I used to have an old Nook with Glow Light, but I actually had it rooted and running like regular Android, and then installed the Kindle app on it and was using a Nook as a Kindle.
No, that's if it hadn't been for the I don't want to use the word loyalty, but I guess I will, of the years of working for Barnes & Noble, I probably would do. But
I mean, whatever. Use what you want to use. I'm not, one of those.
Oh,
people,
no, I know. No, that's funny.
No, it was the reason I did that was this was years ago. Back before it was default. It was standard for consumer electronics like that to come waterproof. I had bought on sale a Nook, like it was a cheap discounted $30-$40 Nook that I would take on vacation and like use at the pool. Because I wouldn't worry if I dropped that in the water, it would be fine. I mean, it wouldn't be fine, but I wouldn't be losing out on the $100 that I spent on the Kindle.
Yeah. Nah, I totally am with you there.
Another interesting Klingon word is actually the name of Kang's ship, the IKS Shuvwit, which Shuvwit is warrior in Klingon.
Oh.
And so that's kind of cool. So like his ship is just called the Warrior, which seems very on brand for Kang.
On brand, but also like how many of those are out there?
Right. That's fair.
Like for Klingons, But I guess he got it first, or
like half the ships in the KDF are named the Shuvwe.
You'd think. Well, maybe he's Honor or something else.
And then I think
it's like church is named Trinity.
I think Cowards is Yingtagpu, Yintaghpu.
Yeah.
I think that was Cowards.
We've heard Yingta on the show.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Patakpu.
So it's just interesting to see like a little bit more than what you would typically see on the show, and have it actually be used in like the correct context. Like, I mean, he obviously it's David Mack. He's going to do his research, obviously, and make sure it's consistent. But I just thought it was cool.
Yeah. I will say, just like what I say with when I'm reading history books, a footnote with the translation would be nice, or an end. Just, you read older history books and there's this, and by older, I mean like published before 1950, so not that much older. There is an assumption that if you're reading about ancient Rome, you can read Latin, which is just like not right. you know?
Before 1950, that was probably true.
In part. And the stuff that I read, I recognize I'm not reading, the usual bestsellers stuff on Rome, but it's not that difficult to put in the little translation in the future. It is for old books because you got to go ask the friggin'
right
authors.
On that note, something that is missing from this book is the little index that was at the end of all of the Vanguard books, where they had the list of characters and the ships and like what side they were for and all that. And like it would have been right, like it would have been nice to have a little bit of that, like because I mean you do meet a lot of characters on the Sagittarius. I also thought it was interesting that M'Benga makes a short little appearance, but David Mack intentionally did not use his first name because when the books were written, it was still Jabilo, which is like medicine man in wherever M'Benga's from, and now his name's Joseph or something in Strange New Worlds. I was waiting to see if he would reconcile that at all, but he just kind of skirted right around.
So he mentioned that he did have to make a couple changes to the book to keep it in line with Strange New Worlds, and I'm guessing that was one of them.
Yeah. By just omitting it.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Which works.
Yeah.
Because we didn't have his name before other than in Vanguard. I don't understand why they couldn't use the name from Vanguard, but whatever. That's fine.
Remember in Chicago when for a day they accidentally had a first name for Spock?
Well, and wasn't there a standee for M'Benga too?
Yeah.
Hadn't they confirmed Jabilo and
Well, but the worst part was that they had the Spock one, which was from like a fanfic from the 80s.
Oh, yeah. It was like Tachin Sagai or something like that.
Yeah. And, Chicago was wonderful, but at the same time, things like that really did indicate that they did not know what they were doing.
Yeah. Well, the fact that there's no Seattle, I think, indicates that they did not know what they were doing.
We're having a Star Trek convention.
Yeah. Yeah. So before I forget, and getting back to book stuff here, because, whatever. Fun little tidbit. We have Aaron Watke on the Enterprise.
Yes.
That was nice. Yeah.
And Benson, Ensign Benson, which is after two of the other writers, Shauna and...
I didn't know that. Okay,
Is it Julie Benson? Is that right?
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. That's what I figured it was. It was Walke and Benson. So the Benson, I think they're sisters. Yeah.
Cool.
So I thought that was cool.
I love it when they do stuff like that.
And then Nanjiani, which I'm like, is this about Kumail Nanjiani, who's not in Star Trek, but is in Star Wars right now? That's really weird.
That would be kind of funny, but I don't think that's...
Yeah.
No, that's probably just a...
Because those were not characters that were obviously in the Vanguard series by any means. Because the Enterprise does show up in Vanguard a couple of times, but those are definitely not characters that were there before.
Well, there's 400 some odd people on the Enterprise. There's lots of people who don't know. That's okay.
Right.
The one of the shuttles at one point had a blast shield, which I thought was fantastic.
Blast shield.
Blast
goes
shields.
up, comes down. Blast shield.
Yep. I think they called it a blast shutter, but it's still a blast shield. Yeah.
I still had the same thought.
Oh yeah, everyone did. If you didn't, what's wrong with you? Why aren't you watching Lower Decks? What was the other thing? Oh, right. Okay. Did you guys feel like this was one of the bloodiest books you've read, Star Trek books you've read? And I'm talking about actual description, recognizing that Coda is really the bloodiest book because of entire
how
universes
much
being
death
killed.
there is.
But there's more literal blood in this one.
There's description and was it Dr. Babbitt's was the one that was airsick? I didn't need that, especially because I tend to read these over lunch.
Interestingly, on that, I want to talk about that for a sec because David Mack talked about this. It was Babbitt's was notoriously hypochondriac, airsick, etc. in the Vanguard novels, and then at some point they stopped doing that, like in the later novels.
Oh, this was why.
So he thought, I'm going to explain that in this novel. That basically it's because of her experiences on this in this book is what changed that.
Yeah, the difference between the beginning and the end when she's asleep That was beautiful.
And then by the end of the book, she, rappels out of a shuttle to save Mara.
right.
And it's like, what is happening here?
Yeah.
And Mara's like, are you crazy? Like, why would you do this?
Yeah, and she's like, I wouldn't do that.
I'm going to say it right now, Mara is the best character in this book.
I would agree with that.
I like her.
I like Mara a lot.
I meant to look it up, but I forgot. Is this the first time we meet her?
Yes.
Or is she elsewhere? Okay.
This is before... Well, she's in the show, Day of the Dove.
Right. Day of the Dove.
Oh, that's right. Oh, my God.
But this takes place before Day of the Dove. And before you canon people start saying, but how can... David Mack also had an explanation for that. Of course he did. He's a tie-in writer. Of course he does.
That's his job.
They say in Day of the Dove that the alien entity, in addition to creating fake memories, is also repressing memories. So, obviously, in the instance of wanting the Klingons and Starfleet to fight in that episode, it's repressing the fact that they've met before and worked together.
Nice. I gotta rewatch TOS. It's been a long time.
Yeah, I haven't seen Day of the Dove in a long time, so that was actually a pretty good surprise. I need to go back and rewatch that as well. But no, I agree. Mara was the best character. I think the way she sassed all of the other Klingons that clearly thought lesser of her because she was a woman. I was like, okay, that's good. That was great. I really enjoyed that. Yeah. And then I just thought like it was a really interesting scenario to have them eventually team up, Klingons and Federation, like, and especially because if we have to fit into the larger canon of things with these tie-in novels now, adding all that context of how bitter things were with the war during Discovery, season 1, right? It's just like there are certain things that they're not willing to compromise on, and it's interesting to see them kind of break some of that here. And so I thought that was really well done. And especially like, Mara and Spock having this conversation about like each of their own agendas, with regards to the metagenome. And then they come to this point where they realize neither of us can have what we're here for. And so the best thing to do is just destroy it, and that's the logical option. And I really like everybody's when happy.
Mara explains to Spock, or like uses logic on Spock, and is like, well, actually,
that was beautiful.
Your prime directive would really say that we have to fight the God thing because the society has already been interfered with, and that would be returning it to the status quo. And I love that.
Yeah, that was really good.
I felt like the conversation between them where he was talking about why he was so conflicted was out of character.
Yes, but it
didn't feel right.
That is coming. So we talked about how this book is partially Kirk addressing his trauma from Doomsday Machine, but it's also partially Spock addressing his trauma from Amok Time.
Yes, but I still felt like that was out of character. It pulled me out of it for a moment because it didn't make sense that he would be that open with someone he doesn't know. Yeah. Although I did like how she was like, "Oh, you mean the Ponfar? Oh, you mean the Kunat Khalifi? Yeah, we know all about that." Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, of course, in the same way that the Federation learns about Klingon culture, the Klingons are going to learn about their enemies too.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It's an open secret.
Klingons are not. Despite how sometimes portrayed or stereotyped, Klingons are not stupid, and they're going to do their own research on everything the same way that Starfleet does.
Right.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that didn't bother me.
Yeah,
I thought it was funny that she was. Yeah, no, that was good. I like that we are getting Klingons who aren't just warriors. I know this has been, this has been something that we've been working on since, forever. But that always did bother me because it's like you have to have. They're in space. Somebody had to be doing some science. They're not all dead.
Right.
from not having antibiotics. Somebody had to be doing some literature because they have all these songs that they're writing. So it's like it's nice to see some of those people.
Right. And one of the Klingons is actually a medic. I think is it Hartur, I think was, if I'm remembering correctly. Yeah. There were a lot. It was, let's see, Hartur, De Gaulle, Nakchi, and
I lost
track of all. There were a lot of names.
That takes me back. There's the Enterprise episode, Judgment, with
the lawyer.
J.G. Hertzler, the Klingon lawyer. And he talks about how Klingon society has changed over time. And there was a time when it was not quite so warrior-focused.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting in the whole analysis of them being the Soviet Union and all that. Post-collapse.
And that's why they're there, after all, on the planet, is to get Dr. Chunvig, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Which,
and that's kind of
I really enjoyed that twist, because you didn't know about Dr. Chunvig at first, and based on the oblique mentions of them going for a scientist, you think they're there to find Dr. Verdo as well, until
beautiful.
You learn that no. And Dr. Verdo was apparently
dead.
was dead and was not the person that they're looking for at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
And also they knew each other and were, Verdo tried to talk her out of it. So yeah.
And like on that note, I think that's the Godhead felt very one-dimensional to me.
A little, yeah.
Because of the lack of perspective of Chunvig. Like the thing that, like I said, was a success with Vanguard, getting the Shaddai perspective. There easily could have been a few chapters where like you witness just like the consciousness of Chunvig kind of buried underneath the Godhead that clearly is more in control. It's kind of like the whole I hate to bring up Spider-Man 3, but it's like the whole Venom thing, right? Like it really, they could have given like a Venom perspective, and
no, you're not
I felt
wrong.
like that was kind of missing, because like what were the actual motives? And it just felt like it turned into this one-sided, like you said, gore fest of let's just destroy this thing. By the end of the novel, by like the second half of the novel, I felt like we're no longer reading a Star Trek book. We're reading like a Black Ops, like Saving Private Ryan type war novel. And even the language that they were using, like, just felt like very militarian. Like, and I know like Starfleet is modeled after naval things, right? But like even then, it just felt, it took me out of it a little bit. It almost
felt like David Mack was taking a cue from John Jackson Miller for a bit there.
Yeah.
Maybe, yeah.
Because like I'm thinking like a lot of John Jackson Miller's novels are very military sci-fi-esque. That's why I was thinking that. But we also definitely felt like a David Mack novel because it was very dark. There was a lot of
literally and figuratively.
Yeah, there was a lot of brutal death. I mean, there's a reason that David Mack is often referred to as the Angel of Death when talking about Star Trek writers.
Right.
And he does it well. And when he gods, I mean, like the Coda, I always go back to that.
Or
I
Destiny.
mean, he writes the deaths well. Yeah, Destiny, all of that. But it was tough to read in points. I think it was especially tough for me because much of the death were these innocent Twi who were just being controlled and had
obliterated.
Yeah.
And like the description of limbs, going, I don't need that. I mean, I get it. It's making a good point about people being dragged into. Arguably, this is making a point about people being dragged into their countries, their government's war. Okay. And I would not be surprised if the Russian invasion of Ukraine was on his mind as he was writing that.
Sure.
Interesting. Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, it makes the point, as Trek always does, but it was still like, oh, yeah, this is not what I was expecting.
Right.
And, talking about the Godhead, too, okay? The Godhead felt to me like the opposite of a Deus Ex Machina, It was like a devil es machina because we knew it was there. Okay. I don't know what the opposite of, I should know in Greek what the opposite of that would be, but I don't. We knew it was there. We knew it was the one controlling it, but then all of a sudden it's just like, whoa, here it is. And we know what's going on with it without a lot of, without having that background that you're talking about. Like if we had had a little bit of a chapter of Dr. Schoenweg inside this creature, or even just the creature, watching them coming toward. But I suppose there is a realism to that, because that's how, if that were actually happening, you would just be like, oh, there's the thing. Okay.
Right.
But...
And, like, part of it, like, the Shaddai themselves are tied to these conduits, and I know that the hybrid is linked more to just manipulation of the metagenome, but it makes me wonder, like, was there this conduit connection that the hybrid was experiencing, and did that influence its actions? Like, I could never get a read, like, what was the Godhead even trying to do?
Why
it just was there.
And that is actually interesting, because that is a contrast to Vanguard, because whenever a scene like this happens in Vanguard, we will get a point of view of the Shaddai.
Right. And like I said, if the goal is to make people more interested in Vanguard, I think that is something that was missing that would have probably intrigued people. Just like, it doesn't even need to be a lot, just like a little bit to like wet the whistle, so that way people are like, well, I want to now know more about the Shaddai. Like, I don't think this novel did a good job of really like showing what the Shaddai could be. It just showed what happened when someone else tried to do something with the Shaddai and it went wrong. And so I don't know.
We're talking about how it shows up out of nowhere and we have no idea of the motives. And that just made me think of the original Godzilla movie. Because it is this function of nature that comes out of nowhere, is incredibly destructive, appears to have no motive, and then is gone. And so having thought of that, I still would have liked to have known more of what was going on, but I feel a little better about it.
Is that why it's named the Godhead?
Oh my. I wonder if that is.
Is that what this book really is? It's a Godzilla book.
We'll have to tweet at David Mack and see if he'll.
Is the only way Godzilla dies is if you fly a shuttle into it?
Well, think about how Godzilla gets nuked, right? Yeah.
Well, no, because nuking Godzilla just makes him stronger. But yes.
Well, I know, but that's it's the most powerful weapon they have at their, at their fingertips. So.
Okay, that kind of reframes this book for me a little bit.
So a quick aside, I think the phrase you were looking for, Chrissy, was diabolus ex machina.
Yes!
Because that's the Latin for devil, and deus ex machina is Latin for so.
Right, and the problem is I was thinking of it being applied to Greek plays, so I was trying to think of the Greek word for devil. Okay. Thank you. Diabolus ex machina. I'm going to write that down.
But the... and I say the phrase. I don't know if anyone has ever actually used that phrase before.
Oh, I don't know either. If I just invented, or you helped me to invent that.
But the other thing, you're talking about how this is sort of a different... This isn't quite the Shaddai, because it's like the Shaddai being used with something else. It reminds me... Have either of you read the Expanse novels?
No.
Okay.
I have not. I haven't even seen The Expanse.
Okay.
Nor have
I.
Show. I need to, but
it's on my list. But
so The Expanse, one of the big parts of the series is there's this thing called the protomolecule, which will rewrite genetic code and make things into what it wants to do instead of what it is. So it'll take humans and turn them into part of a organism that it's creating something, and it's an alien thing. And the first few books of The Expanse, like the villains of the books are humans that are using it for their own scientific reasons and like creating like super soldiers and things with it. And that's why I was thinking this is the same sort of thing.
Yeah.
And that's why I was thinking of that. But anyway, if you guys haven't read or watched them, then there's not too much to talk about. But
Sorry.
for the listeners who have read the Expanse novels, you're probably on the same page as me, so we're good.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Let me see here. There were 2 little canon connection bits that I really enjoyed. I don't mean to be jumping ahead.
Oh no, you're fine.
The moment where Chekhov is like, "Oh, I gotta put this in my head because it's Klingons and Federation working together, and maybe that'll happen someday," and foreshadowing of Next Gen and all that. And then I loved Sulu's thought process with looking at the Klingon script in the shuttle. Oh, I might need to know that someday. Okay. And I think he mentioned flying helicopters in here too, right?
Yes, he did.
Was it somewhere else? Okay.
My favorite bit was at the end when Kang is writing his report for his superiors, and he suggests that a way to combat Federation tactics would be to make a treaty with the Romulans to get their cloaking devices.
Yes.
Right.
That was beautifully put in. Just it's blink and you miss it. Oh, that was beautiful. Yeah. That
was really cool. I did enjoy that. On that note, with Kang too, just I don't know, being fresh off of Memento Mori with the Gorn and the submarine combat style in space, I really enjoyed that aspect of this novel.
I always love space sub combat.
Yeah, that was pretty cool, especially when they're like using the semaphore system to contact each other between the Enterprise and the Sagittarius. That was really, really cool.
What was what I loved about that, and I think I may have mentioned this in our episode on Prodigy at the time, but I definitely did in the conversation. I can't remember if it made it into the episode. But that this book came out right around the same time as the end of Star Trek Prodigy season 1. And when they get to the part in the book where they're talking about the semaphore system that's in every starship, I'm like, boy, it's a shame they apparently took that out between the 23rd century and Prodigy.
Yep.
Yeah, but Mind Walk was a great episode, so it's fine.
Yeah, no, I'm not complaining. I just thought that was an interesting coincidence.
We'll blame Ensign Walkie for that.
Yeah.
Didn't he write Mind Walk? Didn't Aaron Walkie write Mind Walk? I think he did.
I think so, yeah.
So we'll just blame Ensign Walkie on that. So
yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Other canon connections. I mean, if you aren't familiar with Vanguard, Admiral Nagura is in this book, and if you don't know who that is, he has a brief, interaction with Kirk at the beginning of the motion picture.
I doubt it was that easy with Nagura.
Yeah, but
you guys say that with the bad fake Scottish accent there.
Well, and that's actually one of the really good things about the Vanguard series is that you get a lot of really cool stuff with Nagura. You don't get it until the second half of the series, but it is a really, really cool character to explore that you only get like a couple minutes on scene with, in the movies, and that's pretty much it. So that's something that is always a nice highlight of Vanguard is its exploration of deeper aspects of canon that are less explored.
And the one scene you get him in this book is him completely destroying another admiral.
Oh yeah, huge
lot,
meltdown. Yeah, that was good.
Yeah, I really liked that about Vanguard, getting to know him, getting to know Mbenga. I know he's been in other books too, but it felt like he actually got some of the story there.
And Carol Marcus also has a big part in Vanguard as well, which, I mean, once you know what the metagenome is, it kind of makes sense.
Yes.
And the offhand comment about the destruction of SETI Alpha 5.
Yeah, there's
you mean SETI
readers
6.
There.
Excuse me, yes, SETI Alpha 6.
This is SETI Alpha 5!
Yes. Excuse me.
So readers, if you have not read Vanguard, hopefully this is enough to, whet your appetite. You
not quite
should read Vanguard because it's... No, it's not. I mean, it becomes a pretty big focus in the back half of the series. How, like, the TOS universe, it's more than just what's going on between 2265 and 2267 or 68. It also ties into what you see in some of the movies in really cool ways. And so it's a very, very rich playground that they tied together nicely in that book series. So definitely read Vanguard.
Absolutely.
All right. So one more thing before I don't know if we're close to wrapping up here. We've wandered around, but
I think we've talked about most everything.
I think we have. Yeah. One last thing, because we were talking about how bloody it was, and something I really like when we get it is to see how aliens are. And there is that moment where Razka and De Gaulle are fighting, and Razka is very much regretting the fact that he has to injure and kill. And De Gaulle, I highlighted it. De Gaulle was enjoying the carnage, laughing. De Gaulle was enjoying the carnage, laughing like a madman, a butcher in love with the stench of the abattoir. I mean, that's, if you needed to define the difference between Klingon and human, not that there aren't humans that are like, love with the stench of the abattoir or whatever, but it's more of an oddity. And here you see that this is, I don't know, it just made the Klingons feel very alien in a way that you don't get from just the honor and glory and let's die in battle.
A related thing was there was the conversation where they're like, where they were estimating what their casualties were going to be from this fight.
Oh, yeah.
And they're saying probably 75%, and we're saying 75% of our people or your people, and like probably both. Don't worry, human, we'll let you share the glory.
Yes. And on the and that's got a note of humor to it. And then there's the darker moment of Spock being unable to kill Dr. Schoenweg.
Oh yeah.
And Mara saying, "Oh, I can't kill in cold blood." And Mara saying, "Oh yeah, good thing I can."
Right. That part was really infuriating because I don't know, there was a lot in this book, like you said, that felt out of character for Spock, and I know that it was kind of written off as the whole Pon farr thing, but it's like to be within reach of just ending it, and then oh no, we get another 50 pages of just so much gore and death and destruction, and I'm like, at a certain point, I was like, this is gratuitous, and I'm over it. Like
when they got to that, it felt like it was too soon to end it, but it did not go the way I expected. I expected they were going to be ending it by collecting Dr. Schoenweg and figuring out what had happened, and then, whether or not they'd be alive at the end of it was not as important as figuring things out. That was missing from this. The actually of figuring things out.
Right.
It's an example of just, we have to use blunt force trauma and that's it.
And also you have to write the story in such a way that it doesn't conflict with anything else that's going to happen after, either in TOS or Vanguard. So this is I don't want to say it's an easy way to put a little bow on top, but it's kind of what it felt like to a degree. It's like you and that's the hard thing with these kind of like tangential side mission stories where you are kind of bound within, certain aspects of canon and what you can and can't do. I think it mostly works, but it's just, like you said, it was kind of like, we're just missing that part. But I don't know if that was anything that could have been given to us to begin with because of the nature of the story and where it falls.
Right.
Yeah. No, I don't disagree. Just it was unusual feeling.
I did write something down in my notes that I forgot about, and I just found, and it's back when they come up with the plan to swap the probes for the torpedoes, and they have to cart them over to the Sagittarius.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah,
that was cool. But what caught my attention was that they can't use transporters on the torpedoes because of antimatter containment issues, and it made me think of the scene in Into Darkness where Khan is needs to transport all of the torpedoes. Now we know the torpedoes or the warheads do have his crew in them, and they probably don't actually have antimatter containment, and he knows that. But I wonder if that's Mack's commentary on how ridiculous that whole part of the movie is. Because it's just like, wouldn't Kirk and Spock know that you can't transport the torpedoes if they didn't know the crew was in there? And so it's like, how come Khan knew that and they didn't think anything of it or say anything about it? And you know what I mean? Like, it just kind of feels like he's poking fun at what he thinks is a plot hole, but I don't know if that's accurate or not.
I hadn't even considered that.
Yeah, I don't know.
So,
I thought
I hadn't either.
One scene, and it was a very short blink and you miss it almost situation. I thought it was weird to have the scene where the engineers were complaining about DeSalle.
yeah.
Like, that just seemed out of place.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A little bit. I mean, I get it. Like, Alucci was used to doing things like a very particular way in, like, because again, the Sagittarius is a crew of like 14 people.
Right.
It's
So-
a really
So
small
it was
ship.
there to showcase the difference in how things work on the Enterprise versus the Sagittarius. But
And
I
the
just
Sagittarius
thought it
is
was
also,
strange.
none of them are enlisted, I think. I think they're all kind of like Chief O'Brien, like
Well,
they're
no,
all
so
just...
they all are enlisted.
They're
you
all
mean.
enlisted.
They're
Oh,
not-
that's what it is.
They're not commissioned.
They're not commissioned. There you go. Yeah. That's what it was. Because they all, like, when you first meet the Sagittarius in Vanguard, none of them are wearing Starfleet uniforms. I don't
Right.
think they're all wearing like a green jumpsuit or something.
Like Starbase 80.
Yeah. There you go.
I just
Sorry.
thought it was a bit.
Couldn't help but
like,
throw that.
It seemed a bit odd to have that, especially because even knowing that things work differently on one ship to another, just they're still, even if they're not commissioned, they're still Starfleet. They still know how chain of command works. They still.
Yeah.
It seemed strange to me.
Right.
Yes. Agreed.
But I did enjoy the gravitic mind fake out where. Obviously, both the fake out to Kang and the fake out to us, the reader, because we
Yes.
didn't know.
We didn't know, and then Scotty's like, I count 5 too. Oh, and this isolytic, what is it, pulse burst or something, or a pulse bomb. I was like, wait, isolytic
What?
pulses? I'm like, why are we using, isn't isolytic rods are what we were looking in for Discovery, which was a big issue, right? And we also know that. Am I thinking of the right thing, or I can't remember? In Discovery season 4, isn't that what they're looking for? Is like an isolytic rod, and that the isolytic weapons are also the things that destroy subspace. And so I was like, I don't know if I like agree with the use of an isolytic device here. Like,
Yeah.
does that make sense in this context of the story? I don't know.
And it read like it just was an EMP.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
So,
and I'm
yeah.
like, that's definitely not what isolinium does.
And I don't know on that.
Yeah.
Um.
Because subspace tears and jank.
Yeah.
Yeah, creating a subspace tear inside the Klingon ship would not just turn off the power.
Right. Right.
Of course, maybe they were saying that to scare them when it was really just an EMP.
Just
maybe.
an EMP, maybe.
Since we, didn't know about the other thing in the first place. I thought what was missing from that was that there were 5 instead of 4. It would have been better if there had been 4 and he was insisting that there were 5. Because
of the four lights joke.
reference.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like that's
That might
more
be
of
taking it
a
a little
Peter that's more of a Peter David level joke,
True.
I
Yeah.
think,
True.
than a
Yeah.
David Mack level joke.
Yeah.
Yeah. That would if this was a Peter David novel, I think you would get that.
Yeah. I agree.
That meta commentary on other aspects of Trek. I remember I was reading before Dishonor when I was reading through the post Nemesis novels, and there was a lot of stuff like that in that novel, which I liked, but I could see why some people would not like. So,
Well, I don't know what else to say. I hope we have more Trek books this year. That's what I have to say.
Yes. Well, we're
And-
at least getting. Well, we got those 2
Prodigy
novels, which I have not
That's
looked at yet.
yeah. I have not yet either.
And we've got John Jackson Miller's The High Country coming out in February.
which is a Strange New Worlds book,
Yeah.
and then is it Dayton that's
Dayton
working
Ward
on a
has
Discovery
coming
book?
has a Discovery book coming, yeah.
Yeah.
That's all that's announced. So, problem there is, last year, as we know, Simon & Schuster and Random House were going to be merging. And then
Yeah.
the Department of Justice said, no, you can't do that. so most contracts but with that Simon & Schuster was doing, that Random House was doing, etc., were basically put on hold. They didn't want to contract new books while they didn't know what was happening, because when they merged, there would be a lot of redundancy, a lot of departments would be going away. Strangely enough, Star Trek and Star Wars would have been under the same license, or well, not the same license, but the same
publishing
same
company.
publisher.
Yeah.
Weird.
So they were basically, everything was in limbo until that deal completed, and now that deal hasn't completed. But Simon & Schuster is still trying to find someone else who might want to buy them. I mean, good luck with that. Random House is probably the only one that could afford to.
Right. And it's hard because Simon & Schuster's also under new leadership themselves, because didn't their CEO pass away like a year or two ago?
I think so, yeah.
That sounds right.
And it was like a very sudden thing too.
So I'm not certain. So that's why we didn't get much new announcement last year.
Right.
And I wish they had said that instead of, like, every time it came up, like, Dayton Ward would say, "Oh, it's just COVID delays." It's like, that's not. No,
it's not all supply chain. Not every. You can't supply chain away every explanation.
Yeah.
Not for ebooks, no.
But I don't know what that means for this year, whether that means we'll get more or whether we're still in a holding pattern until we find out the future of Simon & Schuster. But I hope it means we're getting more books. I liked in 2021 we got quite a few. We got some old books. We got a TNG. We got the first DS9 novel since like 2017.
And Revenant was so good. Revenant was a great book. Alex White was. I want to go back and read the rest of their novels, because they've got some really interesting sci-fi-ish adjacent novels that I've heard are really good.
Although I loved Revenant, although someone pointed out something that I had missed recently. Julian Bashir is described as shorter than average. Alexander Siddig is 6 feet tall.
I don't remember that, but I probably just skimmed right over that in the book.
That's funny.
Well, if you think about how humanity's average height has increased over the past 500 years.
But on DS9, they're still played by 20th century humans. So.
I know. I'm just trying to...
And I think...
And Patrick Stewart is still like not even 5'10".
I can
right?
see...
He's short too.
It's hilarious because I have like a 6'1" cardboard cutout of Picard.
Which is not realistic.
I think it's easy to like feel like Bashir is shorter than average because has a slighter build than a lot of other characters on the show.
He is tiny.
So he just looks smaller in general, but he's not shorter.
Especially standing next to like Michael Dorn.
Right. Or Avery Brooks. Yeah.
Yeah, well, true, yeah. And he's so childish at the beginning, you kind of just automatically
But no,
assume
Revenant
he's
was a
short.
great book. I would love for us to get an Enterprise novel. We haven't had one of those since like 2016.
No.
That would be good.
That'd be good.
Yeah.
Oh, we're getting the... Is the Cisco memoir supposed to come out this year, or was just...
Yeah,
We
the
are.
Cisco
Just
autobiography
announced.
is coming out this year. That's not Simon & Schuster, though. That's Titan
No, I
Books.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was just announced last week, I think, by Derek Tyler Attico's the one that's writing it, which I think is great. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah, it's I mean, I'm very glad that they have an African American person writing the Cisco autobiography. I think that's appropriate. Like if they had been like, Dayton Ward or something, that would feel a little wrong. Not that Dayton Ward isn't an excellent writer and would have written a perfectly good Cisco autobiography. I think it's still better to have a black person writing it.
Right.
Yeah, and a black man too, because so much of what Brooks put into that role was intentional defying of stereotypes about black men. Yeah. And so you need to have that life experience, I think, to really give Cisco the right voice.
Yeah, and Derek Tyler Attica is a cool guy. I've met him at Shore Leave a few times, so I think he's going to do a good job with it.
Yeah, I'm the only disappointment I have, and it's more because of something being completely unrealistic, is that because they got Kate Mulgrew to read the audiobook, I would love for Avery Brooks to read the audiobook, but we know that's not going to happen. So, yeah.
I'm really looking forward to the High Country. I think John Jackson Miller is if not my favorite, certainly one of my favorite current Star Trek authors.
Rogue Elements is a top 5 book for me.
Rogue Elements was so good. The Enterprise War was also really good.
Yep.
Oh, so good.
And he did the Georgiou novel too, right?
He did Die Standing.
Die Standing, which was also excellent. Like, I wasn't even thinking I would enjoy a Mira Georgiou novel, and then I read that. I'm like, oh, this is so good.
And I was like, wow, I never thought I would care about Oblivion as a original series episode, but now I've got Die Standing, and I have All the World's a Stage to make me care about Obsession for multiple reasons, you know? Like, yeah.
I never thought that I would care about Sean Finnegan as a character either.
That's true.
Anyway, Caleb, it was great for you to join us. We had a lot of fun talking about this book here. Where can listeners find you online? Do you have any work you want to mention?
Yeah, so 2 places. Mainly both are on Twitter. So my Twitter handle's @RogueMogue, RogueMoGh. I'm also the host of the Starfleet Academy Awards podcast, and the handle for that's @Fleet Awards Pod, FLEETAWARDSPOD. We're currently on a little bit of a hiatus. We got to the midpoint of Discovery Season 1, and I had to take a break that ended up being longer than expected, because the day after the episode aired, when I was already planning on my little break, I found out that my wife was pregnant. And so we're actually expecting twins at the end of March, which is really exciting. So life has been super busy lately, and I haven't really had a lot of time to get things rolling again with the podcast, but I do plan on returning to it, and I do also plan on maybe changing the format a little bit so it's a little less of a time-consuming process. So take a more raw approach with editing, and maybe some shorter episodes that aren't 2 hours long.
Your free time is going to be a little curtailed soon.
So yeah, exactly. But for those that don't know, Starfleet Academy Awards, it's a Kurtzman era podcast in which we review episodes of Star Trek. Currently we're working on Discovery Season 1, and we have Academy Award style nominations that we do with a round table, and I have different guests every week, and we just talk deep dive into each episode. Like I said, we made it through Into the Forest I Go, so we're going to dive into the Mirror Universe when I do come back to it, and I'm really excited for that. The fun part too also is that we did have polls on Twitter after each episode, but now that Twitter's kind of like fizzled out, I might do away with that part and just make it purely about chatting about a deep dive of episodes that at this point are now like 5 and almost 6 years old, which is kind of crazy to think about. So it's a good like retrospective kind of deep dive that I think the current era definitely is due. So I have received a couple of Star Trek outfits, onesies for them, so that was excellent. That's great, and
there
I'm excited
is a line of Star Trek Little Golden books.
Yes, actually, we got Baby's First Klingon already.
Oh, nice.
and Star Trek ABCs and a couple of other books that I look forward to reading.
Baby's First Klingon, when you learn the word for enemy, the photo is just the drawing is just a tribble.
That's great. That is fantastic.
Chrissy, where can people find you when you're not disabling Klingon starships?
Ooh, that'd be a good thing to know how to do. Well, in addition to here on Infinite Diversity, you can find me on History with the Szilagys here on the BQN, a twice-weekly short history podcast I do with my fellow historian partner Jason. I am also happy to chat about our shows on the BQN Collective on Facebook, and I am on Twitter at the Goddess Livia, that's TheGoddessLivia, where I tweet about Star Trek history and leftist politics. Let's see. Oh, I'm going to go deep dive reference here. Thad, where can people find you when you're not looking for a way to use the metagenome to help the Andorians?
Oh, nice.
Dang. Best place to find me is still on Twitter. I'm at Tyrannicus. That's Tyranicus. I am also on Mastodon at Tyrannicus at 10forward.social. And you can hear me on the podcast that I do with my friend Carl called License to Spiel, where we talk about James Bond and James Bond adjacent things. We're currently doing the Johnny English movies. And that's license spelled with a C, like the British do it.
All right, and don't forget all of our other great shows on BQN, like Galaxy Class, All Good Things, Union Federation, What's the T-Bev, Mickey's Marvels, Trexperts Quiz, and History with the Szilagys. And exclusively for our Patreon members, there's It's Green with Mark White and Amy's Math Moment. And let me say, when this drops, we're going to be doing a Trexperts quiz for the Patreon thing for February. So if you are a patron and you want to put yourself into the Trexperts quiz, I think it's the first week of February. We've been tweeting about it, so go back and look at the tweets. Should be fun.
Thank you very much for tuning in to Infinite Diversity. Thank you to Zach Tripp for the wonderful theme music and Mark White for the awesome show art. Please subscribe in your favorite podcast player, and don't forget to rate and review us there as well.
And if you'd like to reach out, you can find the network on Twitter at BQN Podcasts, or our show specifically at IDIC Podcast. You can also talk about any and all of the BQN podcasts in the Facebook group, the BQN Collective. On our next episode, we'll be recapping Star Trek Picard Season 2 in anticipation of the episode after that, being about episode 1 of Season 3 of Picard. I got so excited about it, I couldn't get the words out of my mouth. So yay! Right. Until then, we bid you peace and long life.